Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big changes in Rostermania over the last 24 hours, especially with regard to the Boston Breach. Do they have any idea what they're doing in that camp right now? The two-man change they were looking to make a couple of days ago may now be a one-man change with a role swap swapped in as well. Is there anything else going on behind the scenes? So much drama yesterday as well. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Firstly, Clay packing up the house here. So I'm guessing Clay is moving finally to North Carolina. This has been a big talking point now for some time that Clayster and certainly the rest of those Carolina guys were meant to be out in North Carolina, Charlotte, I'm guessing, with a facility or something to that effect. I don't know if it's going to be a facility per se or exactly what Ravens are trying to put on for these guys, but there's no secret that as a team, you generally play far better in an online environment when you're actually together rather than playing from houses around the country. So this is the Ravens' plan. It was said by fellow during Major 2 in Miami that, yeah, they will have a facility-esque type thing. They'll be out there in Charlotte, I'm guessing, together, at least in North Carolina somewhere, probably Charlotte. So I think that's where the Ravens guys were based previously, even when it was London, so maybe that makes sense. I'm sure they'll figure something else, but Clay moving there should hopefully be a positive piece for that Ravens team, because on LAN, they've been pretty respectable, both Major 1 and Major 2. Top 8 at Major 1, probably should have been top 6, they should have beaten Surge, and then top 6 at Major 2 with a reasonably competitive performance up against the Subliners when they bowed out of the tourney. So arguably it could have been a back-to-back top 6 for those guys this season, as it has been for the Los Angeles Gunners. But online still matters a lot. There's 70 points on the line every single qualifier stage, and there's 2 more of those to come. They need to improve their online performance. Hopefully this is going to be a piece as to why. Speaking of online performance, RCTs says this: we know that Surge are based out of Vancouver right now, and the issue is, for many players, when you're on that team, it's not great. But I guess the feeling is, well, we'll go to that and we'll do better, because Surge have been bad, and their net is bad. They're playing for Vancouver, the servers aren't great, and apparently their net is like cable. They don't even have fiber lines. So no wonder these guys are getting torched, to be fair. But as RC says, this is hilarious. Get me to Texas ASAP. I'm not trying to play on cable net in Vancouver. Or maybe they've got fiber lines from like wherever they usually play out of, but now RC's ain't on the team anymore, then he's stuck with cable. And actually, yeah, that's what this tweet implied. Just got to stay out of the office. Got to be on this Vancouver cable. So yeah, maybe they've got actual decent fiber lines in the office, I imagine so at least. But it's still not great, theoretically, like the Vancouver location for the servers and stuff. And I don't know, it's probably been affecting Surge to some degree. The main problem is, if you're RCTs and you've got to go to challenges or something, you need to do pretty well in challenges, and this type of stuff matters. Like, I think it was Havoc, wasn't it, who, when he was on Florida, he actually decided to not be a 5th man and stay on their bench. He actually decided to move to Texas, play on the better internet locations, and then try and get an opportunity as a result. And that worked out for him rather well. So RCTs has probably got to think about this, really, getting out of there and just going to Texas or something, right, to actually make this a better scenario. But I wanted to share this clip for you guys because there was lots of discussion on this yesterday. Slack says, of course, former pro player, multiple event winner, certainly in the CWL era, if you can't spawn into a free-for-all and kill your team, at least every so often, you shouldn't be a CDL coach. Now, I think there's quite a lot of nuance actually to this discussion, so I'll share the clip from Dashy's stream here, and Dashy kind of agrees, but you know, it was Slack who really said it.
Actually, if you can't spawn in a free-for-all and kill him a few times, you can't be a pro COD coach. I'm sorry.
I like kind of a cosign that.
It's like a JoeDeceives coach. Like if he spawns in, I'm instantly checked.
Yeah, if he's like, you should have rotated here, because honestly, like, I'm like, yeah.
You're saying Joey should
have zero experience. Like, how are you telling me what to do?
What if he's him though?
I don't like Damon. Like Damon would give me dope. As
no, Damon gives me dope.
Mouth wide open, just frying.
Yeah. Damon actually gives me.
On, bro.
So obviously you're going to get the reaction here from coaches that weren't necessarily players, as Sam Phoenix says, and also JoeDeceives, I'm pretty sure, quote tweeted this as well because he was catching some strays. But as Phoenix says, of course, Vegas Legion coach, formerly Seattle Surge, spawning in and killing my players a few times in a free-for-all has nothing to do with my ability to coach or teach a team anything. I understand the thought process behind this, but I respectfully disagree with this take. Now, I think there's a couple of angles here. Firstly, the fact that Slacked, after his retirement, I think he was looking for a coaching spot at some point. So the argument is that may be made is that he's salty that he hasn't got a spot, and therefore he's saying, oh, well, these guys who can't shoot straight shouldn't have spots, it should be me instead, type thing. Maybe that's not what he's getting at, but, you know, some people have read into it as such. Beans, though, says, of course, player for formerly Boston Breach Academy, now on Team War, maybe getting the Boston Breach roster spot, as we'll discuss here in a couple of minutes. But, yeah, most of the great football managers, basically every single sport you look at, the majority, if not a high percentage of the great managers were never players on that type of level. So I don't think there is anything necessitating that you have to be able to shoot straight to be able to understand the game on a reasonable level. This is why, okay, JoeDeceives might not have the greatest grasp on things all of the time, but the fact that people criticize him because he can't shoot straight, or as straight as maybe other players can, I think is somewhat unfair. Now, whether you think Ben's analysis of the game is good or bad or not is one thing, but I don't think it matters that maybe he, can't shoot straight. Now, the Karachi route was another story, but, that was basically the first day of the game. Now, I'm not saying you should hire JoeDeceives as a CDL coach, but I'm saying that to me, it shouldn't massively matter on this one. Now, I think there is one point in which, though, it is relevant, and that maybe is a problem for the players' side, but is at least something to think about, is that most CDL coaches have been former pros. Like, many guys had, in some ways, the perfect timings, because some players retired just at the moment when teams started to need coaches. Coaches weren't a thing, 10 years ago. Teams didn't have coaches, really. Okay, very occasionally you'd see a Mr. X figure, or Hilton, if you guys remember Hilton from way back in the day. So there were a few coaches around, but the OpTic dynasty, they never had a coach, you know what I mean? Like, it was only a thing just at the end of the CWL era. We're talking 2018, really, 2019, coaches started to actually become a thing, and then certainly in the CDL era, basically every team has had a coach. So Bunce was talking about Brian. I'm guessing Brian's saying getting cooked in those free-for-alls. So Clay says he doesn't tell me those stories. So maybe he was talking about him. But Facento, right, who replaced Brian Saint on United, former pro, and he retired at a moment where he was able to step into that coaching role at that time. And, back then there were a few coaching roles available, and if you just happened to be a pro that had just come to the end of your career, it was a perfect chance to basically step in and get a free coaching role with the guys that you formerly knew, which happened a lot of the time. And Vicento, because he was a great player, was able to step in for scrims when necessary and absolutely fry these guys. And Envoy says, yeah, he was cooking me as basically a coach of the other team. But the one point where I do see slacked argument here is on what the players think, because if the player doesn't respect the coach, then I think that is problematic. And this is probably a player issue, to be honest. Like, if your players don't respect your coach because they couldn't gun them in the free-for-all, then I think that's an issue from the player side, but it is nonetheless a problem. And if the players are set in that mindset of that they can't really find a way to respect a coach that doesn't have achievements at a pro level, that can't really shoot back, like, every player will respect Karma as a coach. I don't know if Karma's a good coach or not. I'm assuming he is, because OpTic made progress. But even if he's not, the players are still going to respect him, and that's probably going to make him a good coach in some sense, because, there's going to be a better team dynamic. If the players don't respect the coach that they've got because they believe, as Sacked seems to, that, if they can't shoot back, then they're not valid, their decision-making and their opinions are valid, which is not necessarily the case, that may well still have a negative effect on the team situation. So, thought I'd mention a couple of sides here to that angle. But we've got to talk about Rostermania as well, because here is Dylan Attach officially joining OpTic Texas for the rest of the season. Well, he's tried his best. Hashtag new profile pic. Hashtag, the future is green. You guys remember what, that was what Zinni said when he finished out for the Boston Breach. He retired on main stage there in Boston at the event last year, and he said, the future is green, and everybody with more than 2 brain cells said, okay, yeah, he's joining OpTic for going forward, and yeah, here's Attach with the new contract. It's official, so probably classic Attach-related bait. Don't imagine there's anything in this. We're pretty sure he's going to be staying on Vegas Hill on out, and it makes sense, all things considered, given the circumstances. And yeah, I don't think that anybody on that OpTic team is necessarily going anywhere anytime soon. But Rostermania is definitely happening. Apparently there was some drama behind the scenes in the WXC Women's League over the last couple of days, but yeah, secret Rostermania. But of course, we know that in the actual Pro League, these things tend to come out rather publicly. We believe that Rocker right now are trialing gunless, or at least when scrims get back underway, as I'm assuming they am basically now, then that's what Minnesota will be doing. The feeling is Dak, Gunless, 04, these are names in consideration, and Rocker, of the teams changing, are quite possibly the most attractive for other players to join. Now, Boston, though, might be another story as well. So, Zuma mentioned on stream yesterday while watching the CS Major, and we'll actually discuss a little bit on that later today, that he has heard some updates on the Boston Breach situation, right? So, Zuma, understandably, I think, frustrated that Asim, it seems like, is gone. That doesn't seem, the story on that hasn't changed. It feels like Asim is out, and that is the move that they are very comfortable making, which is interesting that that is the move they've locked in considering the other situations. But he reckons that maybe now Slasher is back in the picture, and it's Priestahh who might be under some question marks in terms of what role he's going to run.
I do got into though. I'm hearing that they're putting Priestahh on a submachine gun. That's what I'm hearing, chat. I'm hearing Priestahh might be on a submachine gun, which is the dumbest fucking shit I have ever fucking heard, bro. I'm hearing Priestahh's. I'm hearing they might keep Slasher. Priestahh's going to a sub. Dumb it. That camp is lost, bro. That camp is dumb as rocks, bro. That camp is dumb. I'm sorry, bro, but that camp is just lost in the sauce, bro. If they continue to get pooped on, bro, I won't even feel bad anymore, bro. Motherfuckers got last at the last 4 majors, and I honestly don't know what they're doing now. I honestly don't know what's going on there. There's so many different things you can do with that roster, bro. There are so many things, bro. If anything, move Priestahh to the main AR, bro, and then add some pace under P-Dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way they're thinking about the team is making no sense, bro. There's no team cohesion. They're not thinking about the composition as a whole. They're not thinking about the composition as a whole, bro. You know what I'm saying? They're just not thinking about it. Guys, do you guys like Priestahh on a sub? Priestahh on a sub could be nasty, though? Nah, completely disagree, bro. He just won champs on an AR. He just won Call of Duty champs running an AR.
So if you guys didn't see the update on this the other day, the rumor was that Asim's getting dropped, Slasher's getting dropped, which to me was pretty wild, and Priestahh and Snoopy were going to stay, bringing in Pentagram and Beans. So to me, Pentagram and Beans are definitely options that I would very much look at. I think that Beans and Pentagram are both deserving of chances in the CDL. Beans, I think, is probably deserving of another chance. Pentagram should probably have had one by now, to be honest, but it hasn't happened yet, and maybe now is the chance. But now Boston have decided, actually, you know what, we might well do something else. Now, Snoopy just tweeted this out a few minutes ago. I don't know what he's getting at here, but my feeling is that Boston don't really know what they're doing, and they are playing around with some pieces. It almost felt like that they heard some of the backlash to what had been discussed over the last couple of days, and are now considering further, repercussions. These were the cars, by the way, during Major 2, not especially pretty. Look, it's not like Asim was great. He came in and has done a respectable job. And, there is a feeling, though, that Asim and Slasher, despite the fact that they won an event together on Los Angeles Grillers back at the Minnesota events that they ran at Major 2 in Vanguard, every other event they've played at together, they've come last place. So maybe there is something in that. You might need to split that duo up. Snoopy is clearly very much appreciated by the management, and look, this guy is clearly talented, but he does make a lot of mistakes, and they were mistakes that I think I said it before the season began, that this team would not start off particularly strong compared to where they could have been at the end of the year. It was going to take time for Snoopy to, learn how to play the game from, presumably, Slasher and Priestahh. But has it been clear that he's made massive strides? Did I expect him to be stronger in Stage 2 than he was? Yes. So there is something to be said on that as well. I think the main problem for this team really is the fact that their search has just been woeful, which is weird for a Slasher team. But I don't think it's a terrible idea, really, what Boston are considering here, Priestahh to a sub. Zuma seems to think it would be terrible, and maybe it is terrible, but how much worse can it get than what they presently have? They're last place in the league right now. They have 50 points all season. They're quite a way off making the World Championship right now. They've got to try something or other at this point, and maybe Priestahh to an SMG is actually something to consider, because he's done it before. I honestly think that Priestahh, in terms of COD history, is the most versatile player that's ever played the game. Priestahh during Black Ops 4, and even other games around that time frame, could run literally anything. An AR, a flex, a grapple, sorg, he was doing it all. And I still feel like he's got that capability in him. Like, the rival is unbelievable. I think the Priestahh could do a good job on that gun. And when Slasher and Priestahh had their success together back in Black Ops 4, a long time ago, it's got to be said. But when that happens, Slasher was on the AR and Priestahh was on the grapple sorg. He was basically the fastest paced player on the entire team. So I think it's something worth considering. Maybe there's an argument to say that putting a player like Priestahh alongside Snoopy in that kind of more fast-paced role could actually help both of them in some ways. Then you could bring in somebody else like a Beans, for example, a faster-paced AR player that's going to drop some serious damage in the flex role, and then Slasher would stay as the main. I think that's something to think about and look at. Do I think a one-man move is going to be enough? Not without a role change. I know that Zero's mentioned this now, putting Priestahh to a sub on the Dope Check episode, and he's said this for a good couple of weeks. So I don't know if they've been listening into Trey or whether they just need to give this guy the Supermax to start making the roster decisions. But yeah, I don't think they really know what they're doing. And whether this is a good idea, what they're currently floating around, which it may be, it's just not clear that the other plan was good either. Like minus Asim, minus Slasher, plus Pentagram, plus Beans. I just don't see how that makes sense as far as I'm concerned. So I actually think this new idea is better, but it might not be much better, and I don't know how much it's necessarily going to move the needle. Like, they've still got the talent here, but it's just hidden under the surface by just pretty poor execution from many angles. So if you want to Twitter your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.